see. I got my mic over there muted. Charlie Cifarelli. I had lunch with Charlie Cifarelli yesterday. We walked around the campus of Penn State. Tom, what do you think about that? As far as taking a relationship, somebody you met on Clubhouse, we drove he drove about 2 hours and 40 minutes. I drove about 2.5 hours, and we met, had lunch, walked around the campus. It
I
was,
love that, man. I
yeah.
love that. I made a point too when I saw that your post on LinkedIn about you and Charlie meeting up. I made a point too to like make sure that I didn't just like it, but that I celebrated it because I meant that. I wanted to make sure that it was clear that I was like celebrating that, taking that sort of virtual interaction, that virtual relationship, from Clubhouse, from social audio, and into the real world, and actually meeting up and getting to spend time together and get to know each other and further that relationship, right? Because this is a great place. I think social media, social audio is a great place to sow the seeds, right? For fertile, positive, good relationships. But it's not the place where they live, right? It's not the place where those relationships live. So yeah, I think it's great. I love it. I love it. I celebrate it. I celebrate you guys.
Hey, thank you. And Charlie, he could speak to this, but his wife said, "Why don't you just use a Zoom?" And Charlie, why didn't we just use a Zoom?
Because the Zoom would have never captured what we did yesterday. We really had, folks, a great day by being on the campus, getting outside of ourselves, making the commitment. And it was a day that I'll remember forever because it was unique and we covered so much when we walked and talked.
We met strangers. We walked and talked. We talked about trees. I bet we walked for an hour and a half walking around the campus, talking about every subject that we talk about on social media, every subject that we talk about on a Clubhouse. But here we were face to face, and Charlie couldn't give me a soundbite and then look at his notes. I couldn't refer to my notes section. I mean, it was really an authentic day. So really enjoyed it, my man.
Thank you, Dominic. And I got to tell you, I walked away. I felt really good. And like Tom said, we sowed the seeds in Clubhouse. We meet and greet each other. We learn about each other. But that was a commitment, Dominic. You extended the olive branch, and there's nothing like it. So hopefully we can do more stuff like this and meet other people.
Let's do it, Tom. We got to meet more people. This is the room. Every Wednesday, we talk Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. Some of the things I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about whether your message is getting stale or not. Can a message get stale? And then me and Tom, we even started probably a couple seconds late today because Tom was talking about where he gets his content. And it was so interesting that I was just sitting here listening to him. And then I'm thinking, oh, maybe we should start this room that we have invited people to come to. But Tom, let's talk where do you get your content. Then we'll meet our friend Brian P. Swift, who I actually stayed at Brian's house. So that's a one-up on Charlie. I've stayed over. They gave me one of his bedrooms. So go on, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I just want to remind everyone that's here in the room or listening to the replay, this room of ours that we do every Wednesday morning is also being live streamed. So we're all over the internet, right? We're here on Clubhouse Live. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, in a couple of different places on YouTube, a couple of different places on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Twitter. And so I just want to remind everybody of that. We are live all over the internet. Happy to be here like we are every Wednesday morning, and happy to be here with my friend and co-host and the guy who really runs this room, the sort of MC, so to speak, the master of ceremonies, Dom. Glad to have you back to start the room with me today, Dom. And I have recovered from my technical difficulties from last week. Figured it out. Wouldn't you know, it was just a quick reboot my camera, and everything would have been fine, and everyone would have been able to hear me right away last week. So it's always the simple things. Just a reminder to make sure that you just try rebooting first, right? But to answer your question, Dom, where do I get my content from? Well, I get it all over the place. We've talked about before how I keep a running list of content ideas, and I still do that. I actually was at an event last night, and I wrote down a quote that somebody said that I want to create content around. I'll share that with you guys right now. Experience is something you don't get until right after you need it. Just a quote that like sparked some inspiration in me, and I want to create some content around that. But where I get a lot of content from is this room, and that's part of the reason why we started doing the live stream. Besides the fact that our goal with this space is to create equal opportunity, to spread positivity, to share knowledge, and to help people, improve the way they communicate. At the end of the day, too, I want to spread that message even further. And so, in addition to live streaming this room, we record these live streams. I download the live streams, and some of you folks, if you follow me on social media, or if you follow Dom, because I usually tag Dom in any of the stuff that I put out from this room, because he's integral to creating it. So it's important that that he gets credit as well, even if it's me talking. I put it out across different channels, but I take this content and I repackage and repurpose it, right? So that I can kind of spread the message. I take little snippets, little 60-second pieces, and repackage and repurpose it. And one of the ones that Dom's talked about before in here was a piece that I repurposed from our friend, producer Jemmy, when she was talking about how important it is for everyone to share their story, and that everyone is worthy of sharing their story. And I thought that was such an amazing message that it deserved to be reshared. And I wanted to do what I could to amplify it through my small audience. And so that's what I did. But I think taking content, repackaging it, and repurposing it across platform is sort of the secret sauce to how you multiply the volume of content that you're able to put out in the world, so that more people get to see your message and hear your story. What do you think about that, Tom?
I think it's a spectacular concept, and knowing that on each platform, people consume the content differently. So you can get away with 20 minutes, an hour, like this live stream that we put on YouTube or here on Clubhouse is an hour and a half, 2 hours. On YouTube, that's acceptable. But nobody, TikTok, the app won't even allow it. LinkedIn will only give you 2 minutes with a live video or something like that. Facebook. So to get a message across that we've shared today, we have to break it down and repurpose it on those other platforms. It doesn't mean that it's a lesser message. It means to be consumed on that other platform, we have to change it. And that's what we do. And why wouldn't you do it? You created it. Why not use that piece of content? Let's find out. Brian, where are you? Brian P. Swift. We're going to meet. Okay, look at the stage already. Jess, Harry, Michael, Julie, Kevin. We got an all-star cast here. We're fortunate.
Got some heavy hitters in the room already.
Heavy hitters.
Love it.
And always know it's we call this an open space. So whether you've sold 1 million books, or you're thinking about writing a book, or thinking about starting a podcast, or you just like to listen to them, if you have a question, jump up here, and we probably have somebody here that can help you get those answers. So Brian P. Swift, what's up, my friend? And where are you getting your content from?
Hello, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you to the room. Like Tom said, and like Dominick, you said, I think a lot of us that see each other in these rooms agree that repurposing content is essential, and a lot of it is worthy of repurposing, because what you might have used 5 years ago on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram might never have been used in another form, in another way. So that you've got not just new areas to share the information, but is, Dominick, you're great at saying how many more people do you know now that might not have heard it. That, and you consider all the algorithms that in how many people actually see it. I mean, I think sometimes, and I was guilty of thinking I put it on Facebook, all these people saw it, which isn't true. The way they switch things around. So I do a lot of reading. I get a lot from that. I revert back to some of the past speeches and books I've read, and I'll revert back to that. And like Tom said, you get these niblets of ideas and topics from listening. So I think that variety is a good way of finding things to talk about. I'm complete.
Go on, Tom.
I just wanted to say one thing in response, or to kind of tack on to what Brian was talking about, with the fact that the way social media works, right? The way the sort of feeds work on social media, all of your friends, right, or all of your followers do not see everything you post. And it's very important that you remember that. And that is just the nature of the beast, right? That is how it works. So I don't want to get into like a debate about whether that's good or bad. It is, right? And so so the thing to bear in mind is that every time you share content, every time you post content, it is not seen by everyone. So don't be afraid to reuse content. If you shared something 6 months ago that you think is pertinent again today or important for your audience to hear, share it again. There's a good chance that the majority of the people that follow you have never seen that post before, right? Just because it's not new to you doesn't mean it isn't new to someone else, right? So don't forget that. Don't be afraid to reshare the same content, right? Don't do it week after week, obviously. But like a couple of months down the line, 6 months down the line, a year from now, feel free to reshare that piece of content, right? Because I guarantee most of the people that are in your orbit or whose feeds it will show up in, whose feeds it will show up in have never seen it before, right? So just remember that. Just because it's old to you doesn't mean it's old to everyone else. I'm complete.
I want to challenge anybody. TikTok is so clear at this, and you can do it on LinkedIn too. But go into anywhere you can track views and you can track your followers or whatever. So you go on the TikTok, you go on the LinkedIn, and you can see the views per post. You can take that number and divide it by how many followers you have and see what they're basically giving you. Okay, it's a 5%, it's an 8%, 8% of your network is seeing your post. 8%. So you put out, imagine this. Tom's writing a book. Tom's going to release that he has a book. Imagine putting out one post to his 1,000 people, 5,000 people. And so if he puts out one post, if he has 1,000 people, he puts out one post, it goes to 80 people because it's 8%. So you have to think how many times and then it escalates once you have likes and comments and shares, and then the first hour. So there are times of day and things like that where you start to look at, based on first hour, how much engagement that gets. Okay, they're in the business of keeping people on their platforms, so they are inclined. Everything they do is to boost keeping them on the platform. So if you're getting engagement, if you're getting the comments, if you're getting the likes, then you can see, then go look on Tom's post. Tom can look on the post that has I guarantee, Tom, you take a post that you see has all of a sudden, let's say you have 1,000 followers. Now you have, on this post, now you have 800 views or 1,000 views. You can look so clearly and see all the comments and everything like that you got. And then it really puts in the formula. Maybe I need to ask questions. Maybe I need to comment quicker. Go on, Tom.
I was just going to say one other thing. So that made me think of. I was listening to an interview yesterday with the two guys who founded Strava. For anybody who's familiar with Strava, right? So it's For anybody who's not familiar, it's both a website and an app, but it's an internet software platform that allows active people to share their activities. So it started out just focused on cycling, and then they added running, and now they've got all kinds of different activities you can share. So if you wear a GPS watch, like I do, a Garmin watch, right, then you can track your activities and share those activities, and it overlays them on a map and all kinds of fun stuff, right? And athletes really love it. I've been using Strava for years now. But the interesting thing about that conversation, that interview that I was listening to, it was on a podcast that I really like called How I Built This. It's run by Guy Raz, and used to be NPR. Now it's a Wondery podcast. But he asked them about their growth strategy for Strava. And their entire growth strategy was based around organic growth. So kind of like what we're talking about with social media, right? And the thing they said that they used to repeat to investors when they were looking to raise money and raise capital to grow the company, one of the things they used to say is it's organic growth is slow until it's fast, right? Organic growth is slow until it's fast. And so what happens is if you're consistent and you put out content, not only does it get to the people who follow you now, but it also attracts in new people. Some of that 8%, right? However many, those 80 people that saw that post, if you have 1,000, followers or friends on Facebook, for example, right? Some of those 80 people are not actually currently your friends. They're not actually currently following you. Some of them are new people, right? And so the more content you create, the bigger your following gets, the more new people it gets put in front of, and so on and so forth. So it's slow until all of a sudden it's fast, right? So there is a tipping point with that kind of growth. So it's just something to bear in mind. It's always going to be slow to start. So if you're looking to try to grow your audience and you want to do it organically, which I think is probably the best way to do it for long-term sustainability, it's going to be slow until it's fast. Just remember that. Thanks, Dom.
Tom, you ought to clip that. It's slow until it's fast. Tom talked about, he's talking about where he gets his content from and something like that. It's a great concept. A friend of mine, John Gardina, he told me one time at steel mills, when the steel is in, I don't know what it is, lava, whatever, is in these big pots or kettles, there's a thing called a tipple. And then that's the point, at one point that there's enough, whatever's in that big bucket, that it starts to flow out. That's the tipple. So I am now following Tom, like anywhere I can, I'm following Jess because I met Jess here. And now I see the kind of content she produces. I get the vibe. She talked about veterans the other day. I mean, inspiring stuff. So, Jess, where do you get your content? Ask a question, share a tip.
Oh, wow. Good morning. Good morning, Dom. Good morning, Tom. Of course, always faithful supporting. So I'm watching y'all here on LinkedIn, and I'm here with y'all on Clubhouse. Thank you. That was a great way to start the morning. I actually look forward to Wednesdays. For me, it just comes from just me. Like I don't have a particular method. I really don't look at. I kind of keep the outside noise away too much because it can heavily really impact me. I'm not I'm very honest, so I'm not a creative, but I really just drive with purpose and passion, and then I just align myself with people who know that, who understand that, and who are on that same wavelength.
Jess, does it stress you out on a given day to create content? And since you say you're not a creative, do you go into a day thinking I have to post X amount of times on these platforms? Is there that kind of process, or what are you doing?
Yes,
Okay, let's hear it.
absolutely, 100%. Oh man, you hit it on the head. It is extremely stressful, because, like I said, the outside noise. They're like, you have all these followers, and I will be very truthful. And Jules can attest to this. Uh, yes, to me, I could care less the followers. I care about the people. So if the follower count is at 70K, but 1,000 are like loyal, faithful, they care about what I put out, they're supportive, then to me that's what I see. So I understand the business side, which is the numbers game. I get all of that because that's my lane, my wheelhouse. But what I do say is that I'm not changing who I am. And so my content comes from within. It comes from a purpose and just to leave a legacy, to also incorporate business in there, but not jade away from who I am.
I'm gonna give you a suggestion, Jess, and this is like right along the lines of sort of Dom's ethos with his company Motivation Champs, and always kind of like shouting from the rooftops, telling people to share their stories and that everyone has a story to share. So this is something that Gary Vaynerchuk says all the time, right? Is document, don't create, document, right? So don't. I know there's a lot of people who feel a tremendous amount of pressure to create content all the time, right? And what I'm doing with this room and the repackaging and repurposing of this content is I am sharing a documentation of what happens every Wednesday morning, right, in this space. What we strive to create every Wednesday morning in this space, and the information that we seek to share in this space, right? That we seek to share and we seek to gain from the people who come into this room. So think about that. Think about what goes on in your life, the things that you are excited to tell your friends about, right? Oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened today. Blah, 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 right? ... Whatever those things are, instead of just telling you, I mean, by all means, keep sharing your life with your friends, of course. But in addition to doing that, also get your phone out of your pocket and record a little video about it and share that story, right? And you don't have to post it right away. It gives you a chance to record a video, watch it back, listen to it, learn from it, right? I saw a great piece of advice to do two things to help improve the way you appear on video. And I thought this was really interesting. It's get your phone out of your pocket, record a video, and then you're going to play it back two different ways, right? 2 times. The first time is you're going to turn the volume all the way up and put your phone down, face down. So you're just listening to yourself. You're just listening to yourself speak, right? And then the second time you watch it back, you're going to turn the volume all the way down, mute yourself, and you're just going to watch yourself, right? Watch your facial expressions, watch your hand gestures, watch the movement, right? You're emoting with your face, right? The way you speak visually, right? Watch it both ways. And it'll give you ideas of how you can improve things. Like, oh, I wish I had smiled more. Like, why aren't I smiling? That's a happy story, right? Just little things like that, and just keep iterating. Repeat the process, right? Practice makes improvement. So just keep doing it over and over again. But think about documenting rather than creating. Hope that helps.
That helps tremendously. Thank you. No, I actually love it, because I generally don't do that. They asked me, did you take pictures? Did you take videos? Did you document that exact word? And I was like, no, actually, I didn't. That's exactly what I said. So thank you so much. I am so happy and grateful for that advice.
Tom, that was wonderful. Jess, thanks for asking the question. Think about, and especially Jess, who said, I'm not a creative. She came right out. She's thinking that. So many times, like, and we're going to go to Michael next. So many times, like with an author might spend 3 years working on a book, 10 years, whatever this time. They agonize over every word in that book. So now to post something on social media, they're agonizing that same way they agonize this book. It's not the same. It is not this. You can always push delete on that social media post. So sometimes rather than agonizing, when you're in this, like I love these people I love this idea of I'm going to post about faith, family, fitness. I'm going to post about relationship, fitness, business, whatever your key pillars are. But once you know those key pillars, all of a sudden, like Tom's saying, when you're looking, you can always turn that camera around and document on any day, anytime. Me sitting right here at this desk, I'm about to do Clubhouse with my good friend Tom. Hey, the Pied Piper Julie's here today, about to do Clubhouse. Me and Charlie were walking around Penn State campus yesterday at a business meeting with Charlie, talking this, and eating buffalo chicken salads, right? It's just documenting what's going on. So let's meet. Okay, Michael Lozier. Michael Lozier, where are you getting your content from? And share a tip, ask a question, my friend. I'm glad you are here.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thanks. Wednesday morning habit here. Just to remind everybody to leave a comment or share to help support these guys because they make us happy on Wednesday morning, 6:30 Pacific. You know what? My mailbox, my first book, Law of Attraction, this was the days with just email, right? So people were emailing, why do I track this problem? Why do I track this problem? Well, after a while, there was like 15 of the same questions. There was nothing outside of that. So I would take those at this time. I would take that question and I would read it on Google Hangouts. Remember the days of Google Hangout? That was before Facebook Live. And I would read someone's email and then I would make the teaching point. And then I would take that same email, make it an article. Long story short, I got 22 articles. They all came from questions, and I've been recycling them for 9 years. And we just updated them all with new graphics, and now we're putting them on LinkedIn, and we'll do that once every 2 weeks for probably 2 years. Just put a new article, new graphic, and they're all business related. So a little bit of a lot of repurposing, and a lot of getting my content from questions from that people ask me, because I don't know all the questions they're going to ask. So I often get questions that, oh, that's a good question. When you say that's a good question, write an article on it, do a blog on it, do a video on it, do an Instagram on it. See if you can do the same thing 7 times. I don't even know if you can, but you creative people can. Thanks, Dominic and Tom.
Michael, great tips. One of my ebooks, Tom, I just released as an ebook and audiobook a few years back, and it was How to Write a Book in 2020. And the only reason I wrote it was because I had so many people that would come to me and ask me these questions, some rudimentary, some not. So I thought, here's 50 answers to these basic questions. You take them, I take it for whatever it's worth, but these 50 questions might help you get to this level. And that it was just like Michael saying, that you take these questions people are asking from, we'd have the same call. How do I do this? How do I do this? Well, here's a book that might save you 50 hours or 1,000 hours, whatever it might be. So Michael, go on.
I got another quick little story. About 22 years ago, I was producing, while I was working for the government on the side with friends, we were producing a holistic health expo. And then as we're putting like a trade show, as we're putting it together, we were getting tons of emails. Well, how do I do this? And what size is the booth? And do I get chairs? So I end up writing a tips booklet, and it's called 111 Tips for Successful Trade Show Exhibiting. And all I did was take the multitude of questions and group them. Oh, these questions were about signage. These questions were about where to park. These questions were about the hours. And then the exhibitors were walking around with my booklet, and there was cues in there about how to greet people at your booth and the hours and everything. So again, people will provide your material if you listen to the problems that you can solve with it.
Well, go on, Tom.
I was going to say, I want to give a very practical tip for anybody looking to do the things that Michael's talking about, right? And that is to take pieces of content and repackage them, right? And reuse them over time. A really interesting piece of software that I came across that somebody recommended to me that I now use all the time, and it's the piece of software that I use to pull the content from this live stream, from the recordings of these live streams from this Clubhouse room, is a piece of software called Descript. Descript, Descript, right? So go ahead and look it up, but it's a piece of software, and what it does is when you plug video or audio into it, it automatically transcribes that video or audio, right? And then as you edit the transcription, it also edits the associated media, right? So I can transcribe this entire live stream, and then I can go in and I know at, 30 minutes in, I was talking about Descript, right? 30 minutes into this live stream. So I can go to 30 minutes into the live stream. I can find where I was talking about Descript. I can also search for that term or those words, right? And then I can grab that section and I can create a clip out of it. I can edit it in the software. And then I could, if I wanted to make a blog post out of that, I could then feed that into a copywriter. I could take that as a basis for a blog post and turn it into a long form piece of content, right? Written content. I could turn it into email marketing content. I could turn it into all kinds of things, right? And it also means that when I share these videos that I create out of this space using Descript, I take the text, right? I take the transcription and I use that as the text for my post with a little bit of light editing. So I don't have to write a whole post. I already said what I need to say, right? So I'm not doing extra work, right? So work smarter, not harder, right? But Descript as a piece of software is a great way to sort of repackage and repurpose content across platform.
Tom, spectacular. Okay, I'm going to go on two of those things real quick on quick ways to repackage and repurpose. Any authors, anybody writing out there, you have the PDF. You can search the PDF. You can search through by phrase, by chapter. You can copy and paste. You can take the text right out of said book and copy it into whatever app you're using to make quotes and wherever you're posting and stuff like that. And Tom's saying, you don't have to write anything. You already did it. Just cut and paste from the content you already have. And then in Clubhouse here, me and Tom repurpose this a lot. I repurpose Clubhouse rooms, conversations a lot. You can go into the replay and you can scroll through. You can it has a fast forward button on it. You can fast forward. Anytime anybody's talking, you are looking for when your picture has no microphone on it, if you're clipping yourself. You can scroll through an hour so fast in 10 clicks, and you're seeing where you're up talking, and it's great, easy way to repurpose content. I think this is Julie's space, the Pied Piper, Tom, and I think she has I think she did an ebook, pamphlet, something like that on the subject as well. So, Julie, please dig in. We need you.
Hey guys, hey everybody. I am happy to be here. I'm trying to remember, do I have an ebook on repurposing content? I don't think so, but it's a good idea. Actually.
What's the new one? What's the new one about it? Because I'm on the Media Casters. There's would you call it like a workbook, pamphlet, something like that?
Karina and I are wrapping up editing on our latest book called Audio Casters, which is all things podcasting, which is a kind of a book / hybrid workbook. So I'm sure we'll be tossing those babies out soon. But I love this subject, and I love that you guys call me the Pied Piper. And I think, and as I'm thinking about this topic, and I don't think it's been brought up in terms of repurposing content.
Hey, and I've got to give.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I want to give props to where props is due. Our boy Jay came up with the title of the Pied Piper. Jay, we got to give you your love, man. You deserve it. Okay, Julie, go on.
Thank you. But I think part of that is, I think one of my superpowers, if you will, are connecting people. And guess how I do that a lot of times? By repurposing other people's content. And this is really on my mind lately because we are repurposing other people's podcasts in another separate podcast and RSS feed called PodTease to give them more visibility. And then we are peppering these new podcasters. They're putting their favorite episodes. We are intermittently putting on really established, well-known, high-ranking podcasts to kind of boost their visibility. And all we're doing is repurposing everybody's content. And, if you see a post or something, I always love to share other people's posts in my stories on Instagram. And you're creating a connection by doing this. It doesn't have to be all be about you. And I'm not saying it's about you guys, like you do that, but it doesn't have to be all about you. And it's understanding your end game of your business or your podcast or your book or whatever the heck you're doing. It's usually about connecting people, and what better way than to show them some love by resharing their stuff. And I mean, there's absolutely minimal work in doing it. So it's a win-win, I think, for everybody. And that is all I have to say today, guys. Thank you.
Tom, what are your thoughts on repurposing other people's stuff, like sharing it? I think it's a key to being social on social media, right? Somebody cared enough. Like, I'm involved in Feeding the Spirit. I love Feeding the Spirit. It's a nonprofit I'm in. And I care enough to wear the shirt. I care enough to post about it. So anybody that would share a post, like a post, I'm thankful as shit. I appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? So think about, what are your thoughts on the subject, Tom? Repurposing other people's stuff.
Yeah, no, I
Promoting
think sharing other people's content is a great way to connect with people on social media, right? So it's not only does it bring their content in front of a broader audience, because most of the social media, and I am by no means an expert in social media algorithms. I'll just preface what I'm about to say with that, but um, algorithmically speaking, most of the social media platforms, it's my understanding, dramatically favor shared content, right? So the more content gets shared, the more it gets viewed, right? The more it gets favored, the more it's put in front of more people and new people, right? So sharing other people's content is a great way to help grow their audience, right? To help grow your audience. And then one other thing that I want people to think about is sharing content and commenting on it, right? Like when you share on most social media platforms, you have an opportunity to sort of put a little blurb of your own attached with that share, right? So not only does it create opportunity to connect with that person and to help grow your audience and their audience, but also if they're a person with a big following or has a big impact, right? You can have some of their following and their sort of shine rub off on you, right? Some of their popularity can rub off on you because you're sharing their content and helping to amplify it, right? So I think it's a great way to do that, to do those things, right? To borrow from someone else's success, right, and have it have a little bit of it rub off on you, but also to create stronger connections with other people on social media. So yeah, I 100% agree. And the beauty of sharing is you can't really steal other people's content when you're sharing it, right? Credit goes to whoever posted it, right? So when you share someone's post, credit goes to them. It's clear that you've shared it. So I see no issue with that from a creative perspective. You know, we don't like it when people steal our stuff, right? But we're more than happy for people to share it, right? So yeah, so I think it's a great way to approach it.
Tom, thank you. Okay, this is the room. Every Wednesday, we talk Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. Because of our friends Michael and Julie, we started a club. So hit the button. I guess that gives you one more ping. And we're appreciative of, like, we don't know everything. We're in this room to learn as well. So when you guys give a good suggestion, we listen to it. And Michael, thank you. You want to speak on the importance of starting a club? Well, yeah, okay,
Well,
go on, Michael. So the question was, I just want to pay. I'm resetting the room here. We do this every Wednesday, but we started a club, and a lot of the reason we started the club is because Michael said one day I couldn't find you. I set up the room wrong one day. I set up 2 rooms, and Michael said I can't find you. Here was somebody that wanted to come take part, share some tips and things like that, and I let him down. And so, what do you think
that's
the
okay.
importance of the club is, Mike?
Yeah, even when you list the club, Dominic, that's when I'm following it. When you list it, then I go ring the bell on. So without doing that, we'd have to remember to be here. So look at all the people showing up. When I say on time, I mean they're waiting for you to start. So yeah, start a club. And and you guys are sharing that pin there. I was going to say I would have liked to seen a link to your little guide there, but there's something else here. Someone else just posted. So share your link to your ebook there, Dominick.
You never see me post. You never see me sharing books too much. That's not my thing. That's not my thing. I try to promote everybody else, like my main man Brian P. Swift and my friend Harry Spate. But I might throw it up. I threw up the Feeding the Spirit because I'm in love with trying to. We've fed about 50,000 people in the last 10 years, so I'm on fire with that today. But I appreciate you, Michael. Hey, Tom, where are we at? What do we need to do next? We need to meet Jeree, I think. Is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm seeing. That's who I've got next on my queue.
Okay, Jeree, ask a tip. Ask a tip. Ask a tip. Ask a tip. How dumb was that, Tom? Share a tip. Ask a question. Go on.
Good morning, everyone. Dominick, thank you for inviting me up to the stage. And no, nothing dumb about it, but it was pretty funny. I have enjoyed so much, and I have like 2 sheets worth of information written down from what you all have shared. Such good stuff. I do have a question, and I also have a tip. I'll start with my tip. I do TikToks, and I know, there's so many people who are like, TikToks. But I do TikTok talks. I also have a teenager who shows me how to operate it. So that helps. And in my TikTok talks, maybe once or twice a week, I will choose someone who is heavily showing up on my videos, whether they're watching my videos, sharing my videos, or commenting, and I will show gratitude to that person. And I have seen like my following increase with that because that person will share more, and then those people were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and it also creates connection. So that's a tip. Um, but before my question, I want to create a journal. I wanna create a journal, and I've already written down some tips, like I said, from Tom, Michael, and Julie, that will help me. Thank you for posting that, How to Write a Book in 2020. Thank you. I'm going to utilize that. And so in my journal this morning, I was writing down how I was going to achieve that. And so I started by saying, well, I can achieve it by first connecting with those who have already done it. And then 2, maybe viewing journals that I already use and like, and kind of instead of recreating the wheel, just kind of borrow their structure, not their words or not the how it looks, but the outline of how they put it together, and then maybe chunk the process so I can do it over a time span instead of trying to get it all done at once. Um, so yeah, I think that's it. I just want to say I am a very, very creative person. And when I started doing videos, I was doing it consistently. I was told that you need to post videos at least 3 to 7 days per week or twice per day in those 3 to 7 days. And I'm like, that's so exhausting. And I was doing that. And I was getting a big following, but I wasn't getting much interaction. So then I just started posting my videos sporadically. And then my following declined, but my interaction increased. And so, I actually like the interaction more than the following. So I don't know. If anybody wants to chime in, I'm all ears.
This is an interesting topic. I'd love to hear the room's thoughts on it. I wonder, Jeree, when you put more time into that content, right? Because it was, what would you call that? More, what's that word I'm looking for? She did it with a reason. Not that you didn't when you did it every day, but did you put more thought into the subject you were going to post when you did it at less of a frequency? So answer that, and then we'll discuss this.
You said, did I put more thought into it when I did it at less of a frequency? I did, because it was more like a feeling, like when I felt led to share. And I felt like that's when I was more passionate, where I was more vulnerable, I was more open. And I wasn't really worrying about how the person watching the video was going to receive it. I felt like it was more organic. But when I was scheduling the videos every day, it felt like a job. Like it felt so daunting, and I felt pressured to have content. Like I felt pressured to reach the audience. And so, yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Tom, I want to talk about this pressure, and then we'll hear from Brian P. Swift, who's been putting out content for 8 years now. I want to hear about that pressure and what your thoughts on this are. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Drury, I totally understand what you're saying. I think the pressure is a very real thing. And in fact, for me, it's one of those things that actually makes me resistant to doing that. Like I've admitted, I've talked about it in this room before. I talk about it often, but I have called myself the cobbler's son. Right. I create content for other people. That's what I do for a living. I love what I do, but it's hard for me to turn it around and do it for myself, right? Because I love doing it for other people so much, and because that's always been my focus.
Tom, pause. You have to explain the cobbler's son. It sounds so cool, so I need to know what this means.
So it's I'm definitely, maybe I'm not dating myself, maybe I'm dating my parents because that's where I got it from. But it's an old saying, and basically the saying is, or the sort of the lesson is, that the cobbler's son never has new shoes, right? Because the cobbler is always focused on shoes, making shoes for other people. And for those of you who don't know, cobbler is not just a fruit-filled dessert, it's also the title of somebody who actually makes shoes, right? That person is called a cobbler. And so that's what it means, right? So I'm the cobbler's son. I never have new shoes. I never make new shoes. I always said I was the cobbler without shoes, because I actually do the cobbling for other people, creating content and telling their stories and bringing their stories to life. So that completely resonates with me, that pressure to create content. One of the things that I've done is I've sort of short circuited that a little bit by combining two things, right? So some of you folks in here know that I am also an amateur athlete. I'm a triathlete. I'm an Ironman triathlete. And I am signed up for my second Ironman in August, on August 21st in Mont Tremblant, Quebec, Canada. And the issue that I ran up against was I decided to start a vlog when I began my training schedule for this Ironman. I decided to start a vlog to create accountability for myself primarily, right? That if I committed to doing a vlog, just a quick, like 60-second vlog of every day of my training, I was much more likely to actually show up and do the training on the schedule that I was supposed to follow. So that's what I started doing. And then 12 days in, I had a cycling accident and I broke my collarbone. Had to have surgery. I now have a titanium plate and 7 screws holding my collarbone together. And so it completely derailed my training. But I stayed consistent with doing the vlog. And somebody asked me, like, right when the accident happened, they said, "Are you going to keep doing the vlog?" And I said, "Yeah, well, now I have to, because it just got interesting," right? It just became an interesting story, right? So my whole thing is, all about sort of creating that content that is just a documentation. I don't get stressed about it, right? I don't script it. I don't have, I need to hit these 4 points in 60 seconds. I just talk about what I do. So I start every vlog the same way: Ironman training day blank, right? And then I just talk about what I did that day, and it's just 60 seconds. Obviously, I can talk for 60 seconds, no problem, because I've been talking for like 3 minutes now. So obviously 60 seconds is not a big deal for me to talk for. And so that's what I do. But I make it easy on myself. I make it something that I am comfortable doing. There's all kinds of, metrics out there. You got to post at this time of day, and you got to do this kind of video, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. At the end of the day, what's most important, the primary thing that you have to do, is you have to be authentic to who you are. It's way more important than any of the other metrics you're going to hear, right? Being authentic is the most important thing when it comes to creating content, right? Especially around your personal brand. So be authentic. Forget about what people are telling you about times a day to post, or how many times a week you have to post, or what kind of videos you have to post, and where you have to post them, and what your hashtag should be, blah, blah, blah. Be authentic first. Be authentic first. And then worry about the rest later. Right? But be authentic first. That's my best advice for Drury. I hope that helps.
It definitely helps, and it resonates with me because as you said, there's so many tips and tricks out there to say, hey, do it at this time, post it at this time, and do this. And so I actually figure out my why. And like, why am I making these videos? What do I want the receivers or the listeners to get from my videos? And that's when I went to just the sporadic posts, and chose to just show up when I felt it. So thank you for that, Tom.
My pleasure. And I think that's key just for everybody else in the room, everybody else listening. Figure out what value it is. What's the value you want to provide to the world? What's the value you want to deliver to your audience? And let that drive the content you create.
Tom, what's the name of the podcast? Tell me something good for goodness sake. What is it?
Something so the name of my now long dormant podcast is I've done 55 episodes, so there's a bunch of content out there. I just haven't recorded a new episode in quite a while. But it's called Something Good. Just Something Good, those two words, Something Good. And then the sort of tagline is it's a bite-sized podcast about anything and everything good for goodness sake.
Okay, the reason I wanted to touch on this for the room is even better. Tom has a podcast that he thinks is now dormant. I've listened to a bunch of times. One of the episodes was about him riding bikes, just going out and riding bikes. I ride bikes a lot. I think it's fun. I ride 10, 20 miles, 30 miles sometimes, whatever. And I listen to my headphones. This is my safe space. This is where I can think about new ideas, think about people I'm mad at, pedal faster, whatever. But in this thing, he talked about the feeling. This is how much I remember it. The feeling of riding a bike is the same when you're an adult as it is a child. You still get to go fast. You still get to be free. And that message, to me, is so powerful. Even I was riding a bike with somebody recently. Here's Tom, thinks his content is dormant. It's planted in somebody else's head. I'm riding a bike with, I don't know if it was my wife or my dad. And we're going down a little hill. And I'm like, hey, like my friend Tom says, the thing about riding a bike, it's the same when you're a little kid as it is when I'm 44. When you're 44 years old, you still enjoy it. You still freedom. So that content, even though it's dormant, post, share, it's good stuff. So don't ever give up on it. Go on, Tom.
And I stand by that. I think what I said was it's just as much fun, right? To ride a bike, to go fast on a bike as an adult as it is when you're a little kid. Two big differences for me. One, my bike that I ride now is much, much nicer than any of the bikes that I had as a kid. And two, I no longer get to feel the wind in my hair because I have no hair. But for anybody who doesn't know, I'm bald as a cue ball. I always have my hat on because it's my branding. But an interesting thing about that, I'll take a little detour in a second. But I just wanted to say it is as much fun. So if you haven't been on a bike in years, I encourage you to get out and get on a bicycle. I promise you, if you enjoyed riding a bike when you were a kid, you will enjoy it as an adult, and it will take you back to that same joy you felt as a child, which is something.
What if
Go on, Mr. Swift. Go on. And I wanted to ask you about Brian's out there hand cycling.
What if you can't ride a bike? What do you do?
You still ride. Tell us, Brian, what do you do?
No, I'm joking. For those who don't know, I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic and very comfortable with it because it's been 40 years. But I agree, getting out there in the wind, a little wind therapy. So I do a lot of riding in my wheelchair, hundreds of miles over the summer. And at the age of like 50, I decided to start riding motorcycles. So it drove my family crazy with a guy in a wheelchair getting on a motorcycle and tooling around. But you need to get out there. You need the wind therapy. You need that sun therapy. And I agree, even though it's not a bike, that getting out there and cutting loose is the relief we all need, more than we've gotten probably, to be honest with you. So keep finding those way back to your youth. I think that's so important.
Hey,
Yeah.
Brian, you do a lot of Brian does a lot of documenting, and I don't know that he would call it documenting, but if you watch his content, he's out by the fire. Like a video will be him chopping wood with his kids, or him on his. I rode that bike with him. I rode in the sidecar. No, Brian was in the sidecar, and I was on the regular bike, but he was driving from the sidecar. It was really. But Brian, you do. Is that intentional to share, to document what you got going on? Because you do a lot of that, and it's very powerful stuff. Seeing, as Brian mentioned, he's a C5, C6 quadriplegic. I've seen him hunting. I've seen him swimming in triathlons and stuff like that. So is that part of the game, Brian? Or are you just doing that and don't even realize you're documenting it all?
Well, to Tom's point, that's part of being authentic. In all honesty, that's who I am. Not the taping part, but the things I do are 100% authentic because I do a lot of them with my family, and that's probably one of the most important things in my life. You know, my trinity: faith, family, and friends. So um, it's part of being authentic. So the documenting part to me is secondary because it's all about living, and not just being authentic, but and I think the second component to Tom's authenticity, to being authentic, is to be consistent. So trying to document is not for me just being consistently out pushing my wheelchair or consistently out by a bonfire, consistently out, working with power tools with my kids or whatever it may be. It's just about living. So I try to be consistent with living and bringing myself back to feeling good, which is, being purposeful, being with family, going out for those rides. So for me, it's kind of the documentation is secondary for me. I'm complete.
I want to hit one thing that Brian just said, and it was a word. It was actually the detour I was going to go on about my hat, right? About my branding, and Brian used the word for me. He used the word consistency, and I think actually my hat is a good lesson in the power of consistency. So for those of you who can see my picture on Clubhouse or can see me live or ever watch any of these live streams or consume any of my content, you know that I always have my Talex hat on. I always have it on, right? Um, and it's not because I don't wear the hat because I'm bald. I wear the hat. I started wearing the hat because I decided that if I wanted anybody else to ever be proud of their association with Talex Media, to be proud of the work that they do with my company, I had to show that I was proud of my company first, right? And the way to do that was to always be wearing a piece of branded apparel. And so I chose a hat because it was an easy thing. I can always throw a hat on, right? So I don't have to have a shirt for every occasion. I can always put a hat on. So I wear my hat all the time. It's gotten to the point that literally I have had people see me without it on who I've known for like a couple of years and not recognize me right away because they've never seen me without my hat on. I go to networking events. I have people from the other side of the room see my hat and walk over to me to talk to me and to say hi and to exchange information and to connect because they saw my hat when I was on a Zoom or speaking on something or from something I posted on social media or whatever. And they recognized me, they recognized the hat. And so they came over to talk to me. Right. So it's a lesson in consistency. It's not that wearing a hat is a great way necessarily to get recognized. It's wearing a hat all the time, right? Everywhere you go, always showing up, being consistent. That's what makes a difference. That's what makes it sticky for people, right? So, for the record, I've been bald since I was like, I've been shaving my head since I was in college, right? So over 20 years now. I'm 43 since we're saying how old we are. Uh, so I'm 43. I've been shaving my head since I was about 20 years old, and I have no issue with being bald. But Now I've dug a hole. I have to wear this hat all the time. And to be honest, I'm proud. I'm proud to represent the brand that I've built, the company that I've built and am building and looking to grow. And I'm proud of the work that I've done. So I'm always happy to have my hat on, but I consistently show up the same way and people remember me for it. It makes it sticky. Something to remember, something to have in the back of your head.
Thank you. Okay, let's do this, Tom. I tried to share your link up there. That's supposed to be the link of Tom's vlog, so you may get to that. See somebody practicing consistency. This is the room where we practice. We practice this. We talk about Clubhouse podcasting, publishing, and social media. We do this every Wednesday. Down at the bottom, there's a little conversation going. You can jump in there, ask a question, share the room. We appreciate that. Like our buddy Michael Lozier said, hit that little, what is it, envelope with an arrow, clip yourself. You guys have been dropping some major knowledge, so clip away, use it, repurpose. Tom, we have a star on the stage here, Girish, our friend Girish. What's going on, brother? How you been? What's your thoughts on the subject?
Oh, I don't know about the star, but thank you. Thanks for the kind words there. People, they tell me with the show that I have, Back to Basics, and how the hell do you do this every day, and how do you release every day? And honestly, I enjoy doing this, and I think consistency has been the key for me, because no matter what before I started this podcast last year, and I said, how many should I release? Is it once a week, twice a week, 7 days a week? What should it happen, right? And every answer they said is, even if it is once a month, even if it's once every 2 weeks or weekly or whatever, just do it consistently and people will follow. And if you break that, then people will unfollow you because they don't believe in that brand. So I've been pretty consistent. I've been releasing every day and I've been successful that way. And Tom was definitely a guest on my show, and I just respect all the guests on my show, and they are celebrities in my eyes. So I even do newsletters. I don't know what I do different, but I just be me, and that is all I do. I don't know if that's a small nugget for anybody, but I really enjoy doing this, and I follow it. And this week, I'll be celebrating Mother's Day week because I have recorded 4 ladies on my show to respect the ladies that they're in the business world, entrepreneur world, plus being a mother also at the same time. So it's more of a salute to them. So that's more of a tribute to them. So if someone wants to be part of the Mother's Day show for next year, you can come to season 2 and you'll be part of that list. So yeah, that's all I got.
Jirish, this is Jess. Sorry, I did have to interject. Stop being so humble, okay? Let's just stop. I'm the person that I want everyone that I know that is really doing it and doing it right and doing it with purpose to get acknowledged. So you are phenomenal. You are doing it. And Dom and Tom, y'all are killing it with this room because y'all are doing it with intention. And so many wonderful people are coming through here. So stop being humble. And I will see you at Podfest.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think Jess really knows I don't know how to take compliments. I just do what I do, and I really enjoy it. So yeah. But Jess, thank you again. I'll definitely see you at Podfest.
You're welcome, and there's no thanks needed. It's genuine and it's sincere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Podfest. We got Gearish. Love what you dropped in there, man. Just that was like almost like a Dr. Seuss type thing. I always say all I can be is the best me I can be, but that was close to Dr. Seuss. So impressive, Gearish.
Well, hold on. So I can't wear that cap because Tom is already wearing that cap for the room. So I got to wear something else now.
Hey, wear away. Well, you're the one. You got a fine suit on there, so you're looking good. So, all right, let's meet. Let's go on here. Girish is stirring us up here. Let's meet Leslie. This is how boneheady I am, Tom. that Leslie was up here, and because I
You
got
bounced me down.
I bounced her down right when it was her. So
I'm like,
that's
what?
it.
What did I
Yeah,
do?
yeah. You get banned. My mistakes ban people quick. So, Leslie, nice to see you again. What's your thoughts on all this conversation we got going on here?
Well, I just really enjoy this. Is like one of my highlights when I'm just scrambling trying to copyright material and gathering packages together for pitching things for my lectures. But I love how you just Julie is the Pied Piper, and I kind of laugh because in my world, the world of the practitioners, health and wellness, they kind of dub me the queen of analogies because, I just think of cross pollination, fertilizing. That's what we're doing. We're getting the key is exposure. At the end of the day, just brainstorming and going back using tools for possibly jobs that you've done before. For 8 years, I was architectural drafting and designing, and I had to gather this portfolio to present. And that's kind of the way I look at the podcasting world and social media as I get on more and more radio spots, just speaking into what I'm passionate about with just fine tuning your body and living optimally. I funnel it through, for me, my target audience are more the people on LinkedIn. And as I gather the material, I have also band together with several people collaborating off of Clubhouse. I've met some amazing people going on, for example, 360 Talk Radio. And she, under her roof, has several, Lori Carise, she has a club here, about 15 people, podcasters and people that are speaking into repurposing your podcast and jumping on the radio spots. So the funnel for me is just gathering material, getting that on the social media spots, LinkedIn, and I use that as a referral for me to say, wow, I've done a handful of things now, and then just putting that and packaging that together as I progress. And that is my share. So thank you, Dominic.
We appreciate you, Leslie. Always thankful when you're around and dropping your knowledge for us, our eager minds, right, Tom?
Absolutely. I was going to say, Leslie gets called the queen of analogies in her circle. I am a huge fan of analogies. For anybody who's talked to me long enough, I've got like a quiver of analogies that I like to trot out. So I got a question for Leslie. Leslie, what's your favorite analogy that you use to illustrate a point, and can you share it with us, please?
Sure. Well, I go back to what I love speaking into, and that's, when you are trying to keep your car running, right? You have to put the oil in. You wouldn't put diesel in your car because what's going to happen? It's going to backfire. Everything's going to start breaking down or rusting of the parts if you don't have your car checked, if you don't change the tires. That's the same way as our body. Our body is this amazing vessel. So what we put into our body, what we're ingesting, things that we're actually putting on topically, deodorants, everything can create like a toxic overload if we continue on this processed package debacle. So when people start thinking into that, they say, wow, it's true. If you want to respect and love your car and keep it running, you have to give it gas. You got to change the tires. That's the same with our bodies. And our bodies are going to break down after a while if we don't give it the proper food we need. So that's my share.
Thank you, Leslie. And
Awesome.
Tom, one of the things that's great about Leslie is she's so passionate about what she can do, what she does, and her mission, that she's able to succinctly share that message without throwing it in your face, without talking down to you, but give you these nuggets where you're like, that's very interesting. I'm going to explore her a little bit more, check on which our friend producer Jimmy says, I'm going to keep stealing this until she gets mad at me. And she's not here, so I can steal it. And I credited her too. She says, we should look left, look right, look up, down. She said, think of these rooms as the Brady Bunch. We're all pitchers here, and connect with the person above, to the left, to the right. and take it offline, have that virtual conversation. So, okay, Tom, we are going to keep. Did you want to add something? Then we're going to get to Nicole.
I
Go on,
just
Tom.
wanted to throw an analogy that I like to use back at Leslie that I don't know if she's heard before. But that is that I like to approach content development and production like a road trip, right? So obviously, I'm 43 years old. When I started driving, we did not have smartphones. We did not have Google Maps. When you wanted to go somewhere, you had to get out an actual atlas, a road atlas, the Rand McNally Road Atlas, right? And figure out how to get where you want it to go, right? But the first part of every road trip is figuring out your destination. So what's the end goal of the content you want to produce? What's the destination? Where do you want to end up? What do you want to accomplish, right? What's the purpose? Why are you doing it, right? So that's the first step, is pick the destination. Then you get out the atlas and you start planning the route, right? So you start figuring out what stories you should tell and how you should tell those stories in order to get to the end result you're hoping to create, right? So you plan the route, you pick the roads, you make sure you go by all the stops that you want to stop at, all the places you want to see along the route, right? So you plan the route, then you get in the car and you start driving, right? So when you're creating content for your business, your brand, don't skip that planning step. Pick the destination, then plan the route, then get in the car and start driving, start filming content, right? Start creating that content, right? And take that journey towards that final destination. So that's the analogy I like to use, is creating content creation, content development is a lot like a road trip. The first thing you have to do is pick the destination.
Love that, Tom. That's awesome. It's a business plan in a sense. It's the timeline, the mastermind behind the production of what your passion and what you are speaking into. So yeah, I love that.
They say if you know the why, you're never off mission. You always know every decision you make. It's so easy to clear. Is this what I want? Let's say Motivation Champs, we try to share inspiration, positivity, and smiles every day. As many ways as we can share inspiration. So, is this a way to share inspiration, positivity, smiles? Can I help one more person do it by doing this? Okay, so if somebody wants me to sell Ray-Ban sunglasses on one of my pages, well, let's say it has 3,000 people on it. I could make money because probably one person needs a Ray-Ban sunglass. Sorry, Ray-Ban. But it's completely off mission with what I'm trying to do. We're trying to share good, share positivity, share kindness, share inspiration. It's off mission. So it helps me make those choices and hopefully keeps you on track. If you know that why, it's a lot easier to stay on track, especially those times where you're like, this is a quick buck. Well, I should do this. Well, maybe, could that quick buck help you further your mission another way? Well, then that's something maybe you need to consider. But how far off the track do you go? So, Tom, speak to it, my man.
Had to find my mouse so I could unmute
That's
myself.
That's all right. Go on.
That. I've got too many screens in front of me.
Me too.
But yeah, no, I 100% agree. And that's something I say to people a lot is when the first step you take is picking that destination, that means that everything you do from there on out is purpose driven towards accomplishing that goal, right? It means you are never off, like you said, you're never off mission. It means every decision you make is purposeful and intentional, right? And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with. They feel aimless as they're creating content, as they feel aimless as they're trying to share with people and connect with people digitally and online and through marketing content and advertising. They feel aimless about what they're doing. They feel like they're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And often it's because they haven't picked the destination, right? They haven't figured out that why. And so they're not being intentional with the decisions they make, with the content they produce, and with the way they interact with their audience, right? So, and the way they interact with their community, right? Because that's a two-way street. So yeah, I 100% agree. I couldn't agree more that determining that why, determining that mission, figuring out what value you want to add to the world, what value you want to create for your audience and your community, how you can add value to their lives. Figuring that out is crucial to unlocking being able to create content and create messaging that resonates with those people and is relatively easy to do, right? That you want to create something that furthers this goal, that furthers this mission. So you've already got sort of a topic, right? And it keeps you focused on what you're trying to accomplish rather than aimlessly saying, well, today I could do a piece of content on this, or today I could do a piece of content on this, or I guess I could do a piece of content on this, or oh man, it's Wednesday and I'm not sure what kind of content I should do today. Right? It kind of takes all of that out of the equation if you're laser focused on a goal, if you have intention with everything that you do. So yeah, I think that intention is key.
Excellent, Tom. Attention, that's the word I was looking for earlier too. So let's meet 2 + 2. Okay, let's meet Nicole Martin. I think this is my first time. I'm looking at 2 + 2. Reading their bio right now. Interesting. So catchy bio. 2 + 2 will always give you 4. Okay, now I'm in. I want to read more. So let's see here. 2 plus 2 + 2 will always give you 4. If you want a different outcome, you need a different equation. My life has given me a very different reality than most. I'm medically retired, disabled vet, and single mom. Okay. I thank you. We thank you for your service. I have used my experience as a gift to shape others around me. Who couldn't want more of what Nicole Martin has here? So, Nicole Martin, ask a question, share a tip. What do you got for us?
Well, thank you so much for reading my bio. What an introduction. That's a great way to start. Thank you so much. So I'm actually here because I loved the topic talking about, podcasting, publishing, and social media. And one of the things that I'm working on currently right now is I am writing my story. I realized that I had a gift with words, and it was time to put my story into words. So I just wanted to kind of come in the room, and I've just been absorbing and listening and receiving all of the incredible things that each of you have shared with me. And I'm so grateful for this space. Honestly, I know that where I struggle, that and I love, I don't know how to get by clients on the, I've really been focusing on
Nicole, you're breaking up on me a little bit. I think Charlie, is she breaking up on you a bit?
She is.
Okay.
No landline.
Nicole, we will give this a 3, 2, 1. We want to know what you got going on. So we're going to reset here. 3, 2, 1. Try again, Nicole.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Hang on one second.
It's already better. Look at that.
How does this work? Is this better for you guys?
That's how life works. So sometimes that second chance, you nail it, and she's nailing it already. Go on.
All right. So I wanted to say thank you. I'm so grateful for this space, and I really have, taken a lot of it. I love the word authenticity, setting intentions. These are things that I really just try to apply so much throughout my experience. And when I made the decision to start writing my story and kind of starting writing the book, I thought it would be really easy, to just be authentic. You're telling your story, how difficult it is. And then I realized that there were so many layers to my story. And I feel like where I'm struggling a little bit is just the concept of writing about my military experience, like knowing that, I might rattle a little boats here and, rattle some things. So, just really kind of getting in here and just listening to you guys, just kind of affirm that authenticity, affirm, the intention, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Has really just kind of helped me continue this. I am going to be real. Like there's still some nerves that come up when talking about my experience. I'm not necessarily talking about the military as a whole. I'm talking about my experience with my medical conditions and the things that kind of came up through my experience while serving in the military, which I feel like is a very unique and personal perspective to me. And I know people have talked about, their military experience, but, when you're talking about stuff like that, I just feel like it was, wanting to allow myself to just kind of be humble as well as stay true to who I am and my story. So yeah, I would just be willing to hear any input on, being able to express yourself through some of these dicey some of these dicey subjects and stuff, and how any of you have overcame that, whether it be, military experience, whether it be, experience with sharing things, in your personal life, with people around you, and stuff like that. So thank you so much for the space. I hope I was clear with my question. And again, I'm really just kind of new to getting all of these thoughts out and write them in the book. Speaking is great, writing is a different ball game, and I'm just loving being able to creatively flow through this way.
Nicole, thank you. Tom, the one thing this is great subject, and military, such a unique experience. Number one. So I have not, I was never in the military. Thank you for your service. My father was, and he kicked butt around the house. I will tell you that. But you have such a unique experience that many of us, the majority of us, only a fraction of the people in the world have. And then even within that, you have another experience, your version of it. So for you to tell that story, I really would say, tell your side of the story, your authentic story, the details. We love the details. We need the details. I've worked with a few people in the military, and sometimes I say, they tell me about the valley of a mountain that they walked through in Afghanistan or something. And I want to know, tell me more about that valley. What does that mean? How far was it? Could you see the sunset? Were people shooting at you? Were you going through villages? That's the kind of detail so we want to be right beside you during that experience. And I think sometimes, Tom, we know the story so well. And me and Charlie talked about this yesterday too. Sometimes we know the story so well. When we write it, we don't put all those details in that we have when we tell it. People can see us. Like if you're looking at the live stream right now, you can see me moving my hands back and forth. You can see somebody's you can feel it. They get closer to you, they step away. But when you're writing the story, you don't always see that. So get out there and share your story. The other thing for just video, and I think I want you to jump on this one, Tom, is me and Charlie were talking about the use of emotions when you tell your story. So, Nicole, what I'm going to say to you is you have to practice that story so that when you tell it, you don't break up, because you don't want anything to happen that takes the viewer out of the story. You're trying to share your message. They're hanging on every word. What's the next word? I can't wait till Nicole gives me one more thought. And if you do something that takes them out of that, sometimes you're harming your own story. So go on, Tom. And then Charlie, if you wanted to discuss, jump on that after Tom, go ahead.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for the question, Nicole. Thanks for being here. So I wanted to hit on something that you talked about right at the end there. And it's sort of this idea or this fear that a lot of people have, or concern that a lot of people have when it comes to sharing stories, creating content. And that is sort of a fear or concern about backlash, right? Or about people's responses. And so I heard a great quote a while back. I don't know who I could attribute this quote to. I'm not sure who said it first, but the quote was essentially, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're doing it wrong. Right. And in terms of, contextually, in terms of content creation and your messaging and what you're putting out in the world, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're doing it wrong. And what that's sort of in response to, I think, is this notion that a lot of people sort of chase this false goal, this false ideal of trying to make everybody happy, right? Trying to be the people pleaser, right? Trying to keep everybody happy, which is a fool's errand because it's impossible. You cannot make everybody happy. It is literally, factually impossible to do. You cannot make everybody happy. And so don't fall into that trap of trying to make everybody happy, right? Stay out of that trap of trying to make everybody happy, and instead make sure that the message you are delivering is consistent with and authentic to who you are and what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to put out in the world, right? So And what the sort of end result of that is that the people, I'll put this in like a business context, right? So the people who you end up pissing off as a business with the messaging that you put out in the world, right? The people who you piss off are self-identifying as people that you don't want to do business with, right? They're self-identifying. They're raising their hand and they're saying, hey, I am not someone you want in your circle. I am not someone you want to do business with, right? And the people who identify with your content, right? The people who cheer you for taking a stand, right? On your values, right? And sharing your values, regardless of consequences or regardless of the fact that it might upset some people, those people are the people you want in your orbit. They're the people you want in your corner. They're the people you want on your team. They're the people you want to do business with, right? They're self-identifying as the people you do want to do business with. So I think there's tremendous value in taking a stand as a brand, as a business, as an enterprise, as a personality, as an individual. There's tremendous value in that, and you should not be afraid to put your position, your opinions, and your stand, your values out into the world, because it will draw people to you who identify with the values that you put out in the world, right? And shared values are a great basis for deep, rich, long-lasting relationships, right? And that's ultimately what life and business are all about, right? It's about building relationships. So yeah. So I say, don't be afraid to do it. Put it out there. Share that value with the world. Share your values with the world. Share your story with the world. And the people who get pissed off, you don't need them. I'm complete.
Thank you, Tom. Charlie, go on if you want to jump on this as somebody that's now out there sharing their story, sharing a story that covers addiction, abuse, all these things that might scare other people off. But then on the other hand, maybe you can help one person. So go on, Charlie.
Well, one of the things that was told to me 30 plus years ago is one sure way to fail is to try to please everyone. And I never forgot that. So you're listening to an individual that was all tucked in for 30 years. 30 years ago, 31 years ago, had a horrible addiction. And I got into the prison industry. Never talked about anything. Had this incredible, crazy background that the documentary, The 7-5, details some of the stuff that I was involved in. And yet, I never told this story. And society looked at me like I was successful. Then I went into the private sector, and they really looked at me like I was successful. Met the president, met the governors, met Supreme Court justices. And then finally, a few months ago, I decided to let it all hang out. And I threw it out there. All this stuff have come from every state. Charlie, I can't believe they can't believe it. They can't believe it. You know, the clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson, he got 3 million views 4 years ago because he interviewed a serial killer. Somebody did a short on me on YouTube, and I got almost 3 million views of the final moments of me with a death row inmate that wasn't liked, that I took his cup of coffee out of his hand. And I held on to this stuff for all these years. I had this good, bad, or indifference in me. I let it all hang out now. So, and the last part of this is Tom brought this up earlier, and this was the original conversation. I didn't say anything on it before. So, I grew all my material organically, but what's happening now is people are taking stuff I've done and they're sharing it. Not from even me, I might do a 3-hour podcast and there are people taking clips from that and sharing it. And they're putting it here and they're putting it there. And people are making stuff out of the stuff I've done. And I talked to Dominick. I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of views of this story. And for 30 plus years, I was a regimented prison official that never talked about the chaos and insanity that I overcame. And I'm going to tell you something. It's easier to act normal in this world and have all this stuff going on, as we know with famous people that leave, that we had no idea that they were going through all this trauma. And I'm really glad that I took myself out of darkness and put myself in the light. And that's really where it is today. Thank you.
What a great wrap up there. Took yourself out of the darkness into the light. That's what we're doing. Sharing stories. Share your story. Tell your story. You can make a difference. We're going to meet. Okay, this stage just blew up. We got Dominick here, Jen, Dr. Tachi, Harry. Okay, so let's meet Dominick. Dominick, ask a question. Love the name, my friend. Dominique. Some people spell it I-Q-U-E. I got a K. You don't have a K. Dominick, what's happening, my friend?
Nothing much, brother. I want to say I love your name as well. I've been following you for a while now. And I just want to say I love this room and what you guys are bringing to the table and what you're talking about. And I just want to double down on something Tom said earlier and also Charlie as well, that authenticity. Is just so important when we're talking about storytelling. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be necessarily your story. Um, I started a podcast 6 years ago, the Startup Life, talking about business and entrepreneurship, and I brought somebody on who was talking about business, but every so often they were talking about their recovery from addiction, and and I could just tell like they really want something to say here, and so I was like, look, man, this keeps peeking out. Like clearly, there's a message you want to get out. Just get it out there. Like let's tell that story a little bit, and so we got that message out there, and he appreciated, you know, offering that platform and the empathy that I showed for him to tell him that story. Fast forward a year later, uh, uh, this behavioral health company calls me and say, "Hey, would you like to run our podcast for us, telling these stories about addiction, recovery, and mental health?" And so again, as a for myself, I'm not personally a person in recovery or been around somebody with addiction, but my empathy and that authenticity of the storytelling that came through, people have resonated with. And so now I work for this company, and I help share these stories of recovery, these amazing stories of people who with mental health struggles and overcoming them and stuff like that. So when you talked about authenticity, that just really resonated with me. Not even if it's just your story, but just having that empathy and that authenticity for other people's story and sharing that dignity of their story. It really resonates with me, and I really think you can use that to impact people. I'm done speaking.
Dominick, spectacular. I'm looking at the live stream and I'm looking at Tom, and he is beaming while you're speaking. So I'm just going to let him do his thing because you have impacted one and two me. But by the way he's beaming, I'm going to him. Go on. Charlie's choking. Hold on one second. Charlie, we give a SOS to Charlie. Pump on his chest cyberly. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Dominick, thanks so much for sharing that and for sharing a little bit of your journey and how you ended up where you are and what you're doing and the work that you're doing, sharing amazing stories of overcoming addiction. And yeah, I mean, I love that so much because I think, sometimes I feel like I'm beating the proverbial dead horse when I tell people about being authentic and placing authenticity first and foremost in their thought process, in their thinking, in the way they approach life, in the way they create content, in the way they represent their brand, all of those things. I mean, at the end of the day, we are nothing if we cannot be proud of who we are. Right. And I think authenticity is a great way to not only share who you are with the world, but also to help become proud of who you are, become proud of what you've accomplished, become proud of where you are in your journey. It's something that I've struggled with. We hear this kind of phrase, imposter syndrome, all the time. Right. And it's something I've struggled with. I've come from a background in the entertainment industry and was pretty well accomplished in that field before going out on my own and becoming an entrepreneur. And I actually had a friend yell at me, literally raise their voice at me, yell at me because I've been fortunate enough in my career in entertainment. I was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards. Didn't win the trophy, but was nominated nonetheless and recognized. I think of that as a recognition of achievement. It was nowhere, right? So this friend of mine knew that I had been nominated for an Emmy twice, and yet it was not in my bio on LinkedIn. It was not in my bio on my website. It was not on my Facebook profile or my professional profile on Facebook. It was not on my LinkedIn. It was not on my Clubhouse well, I didn't have a Clubhouse profile then. But, all of those it didn't show up anywhere, right? The only way you would know is if you had known me when it happened, right? Because I posted about it, watching the Emmys and fingers crossed and asked everybody for their support and et cetera, et cetera. But that's the only way you would have known, right? Or if I told you directly. And I had to take that on board, get yelled at, right? Have that friend hold me accountable and say, this is an achievement in and of itself. You should be proud of this. This is part of who you are. This is part of what it means to be you. It's part of your experience, and you should share that experience with the world. You should authentically share your experience with the world, right? And it's an important lesson for everyone to take on board, because I am now, able to comfortably sit here and talk about that experience and say that I am proud of that recognition. Whereas a few years back, I would have struggled to do that. And if somebody else had brought it up, I would have kind of downplayed it and then moved on without really addressing it because I wasn't comfortable being authentically who I am. Right. And I think the fact that I'm willing to go out and do things like this Clubhouse room and, post about my story on social media and things like that has helped me get more comfortable with accepting myself and being authentically who I am and sharing that with the world. So I think it's a message that cannot be stressed enough. And I appreciate you hitting on that here. Thanks for the nod, Dom. I was I feel like I was about to sprain my neck. I was nodding so hard as Dominick was talking. So if you check out the live stream, you can see me reacting, but I was smiling and nodding quite a bit. But thanks for that, Dom.
Yeah,
No worries.
yeah, Dom, you nailed it, man. Thanks for being here. And I just followed you. I'm looking at your bio. I'm going to connect with you off channel. I think I might have some authors that would be a good fit for your show that have fought some battles and are helping their family through some battles. So appreciate the work you're doing, man. I love
No
this
worries.
idea of helping other people share their story, right? It's not, I think you're in the right room when we believe in this subject of it. It's never about us. As soon as you start, like John Jay comes through once in a while, and John Jay, he won't even put the title of either. He doesn't put his name or the other person's name in the bios of his show because it's never about that. It's about the topic. So it's powerful. Hey, let's meet. We're going to meet Jen, then Dr. Tot, our friend Dr. Tachi. Hey, Tom, I want to let you know in the live stream here, Dr. Tachi says bald is great. Then Jessica, she said she got some great news and then left us before telling us what the news was. But we're going to meet Jen right now, who has a cool pink ring around her picture. I think I could rock a pink ring around. My shirt's pink today. I think I could rock a pink ring around my circle. So, Jen, you know the subject right now. So introduce yourself, ask a question, drop a tip. Go on.
Yes, and thank you, Dominic. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been here before, but it's been a little minute, so I appreciate the opportunity and I appreciate what you're doing here with the room. So, yeah, I'm Jen. I host a podcast. It is called Woke by Accident. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics and some news commentary about topics. Um, oh, I want to say about race relations and things like that. And I also have guests on lately that want to share about their podcast or their author or something like that. And so my question is that I have been trying to incorporate more video with it. Before I was like, oh, I'm just audio. But because video is really, so prominent, and I've been hearing that advice from, mentors and people that I work with, that video is just so important and not just reels and things like that to promote your podcast, but just sure that video is what you really need to do. So I've been dipping my toe into that, and I've been using Zoom, but I'm transitioning into StreamYard. Just any tips for people who, I'm not that great of a video editor, so I'm kind of apprehensive about the whole thing. Like, I have some of my video out on my YouTube, but I know it looks crazy and horrible because I don't really know how to edit my videos really good. I'm just not, good with it yet. So, advice for transitioning into video, perhaps.
Tom and Dr. Tachi, Jen, you came to the right place. So we are going to go to two experts. I'm going to step aside and let Tom and Dr. Tachi nail this for you. Go on.
Thanks, Dom. So Jen, a couple of things right off the bat. One is, I don't know if you were in the room before, early on, I was talking about a piece of software called Descript. So I suggest you check that out. It's just DESCRIPT, Descript. And so what it is it's a transcription and video editing software, right? So what you can do is you can take your podcast, the video from your podcast, feed it into Descript. It will transcribe the entire podcast. And then as you edit the words in the transcription, it will also cut down the video associated with it. So it's a quick, easy way to sort of edit down content. And then the other thing I would suggest doing is looking online. There's a bunch of different ways you can reach out to different creators around the world. So don't feel like you have to do everything yourself. If it's not your zone of genius, look for opportunities to outsource that work, right? So what I would do is I would reach out to somebody online and look for somebody to help create some branded graphics, like an intro, what we in the industry would call a bumper, right? So an intro bumper and an outro bumper, with some music and some animated branded graphics underneath, right? If you have somebody create that, you can then slap those on the sort of top and tail or the front and the end of each of your videos. You can use Descript to edit down, extraneous content that you don't want to include. And then all of a sudden you've got a video that looks pretty polished that you can put up on YouTube of your podcast. So that would be sort of my tips for how I would approach creating that sort of for the lightest lift and making it as easy as possible for you as the creator. Dr. Tachi, what are your thoughts on how Jen can get the video component of her podcast out to the world?
I mean, I spend most of my time, because I so respect you. I spend most of my time saying, "Yeah, what Tom said." So, yeah, what Tom said. For real, he hit it right on the head. I would also add that sometimes people think that video editing is this ominous thing, which it can be if you make it such. But when you think about it, and Tom can probably co-sign on this, generally professional people, when it comes to edits, it's cuts, maybe fades. that's it. It's really simple. So if you don't think about having to do all of this incredible stuff and all these difficult things, think cuts and fades and you'll be good. And especially if it's a podcast, there's probably not very much that you have to do anyway beyond cutting out some extraneous scenes or whatever the case may be. So I'm like, think simple, because for the podcast, people are there for the conversation, definitely. So the simpler, the better. And then everything else that Tom said. I release the mic.
Yeah, I'm with Dr. First of all, Dr. Tachi, thank you for that. That's very flattering of you to say. I very much appreciate you saying that. And I want you to know the respect goes both ways. That's a two-way street, my friend. So thank you for saying that. And and Jen, just to echo what Dr. Tachi was saying about the editing, don't overthink it, right? Don't get all caught up in like trying to be fancy with transitions and stuff like that. You can just, especially for a podcast, there's a couple of things you can do. Like, first of all, just use hard cuts, right? Which is just a simple jump cut from like one clip to the next. Don't get worried about transitions. I would even dial it back. Like, yeah, can you do some fades? Sure. But I would even dial it back a step further and just say, just do jump cuts. Just do that hard cut where you cut from one piece of video to the next piece of video. It's a technique that gets used a lot in digital content. right? It gets used a lot in YouTube content, and it's something people are used to and not something you need to be afraid of. The other thing too is talk about the fact that you are just starting out in editing video and creating this video content. Be honest with your audience, right? Be authentic, like we talked about, but be honest with your audience about where you are in the process and that you're learning and trying to become better every day and with every iteration, and any feedback. Welcome feedback from your audience, right? From your community. So that's what I would say too, to just tack on to what Dr. Tachi said, but yeah, absolutely. Like, jump cuts are fine. Get somebody online to create those bumper graphics, which you can do very inexpensively. And then yeah, just be honest with your audience about where you are in the process and bring them along for the journey. It helps take that podcast from a product to you documenting your journey through improving that iteration of your podcast, right? So just something to think about there. I hope that's helpful.
Great stuff, Tom. Jen, thank you. Go on, Jen.
Oh, yes, thank you. And a really quick question. The bumper that you mentioned, is that something like you can make in like Canva or like some site like that where you can
Yeah.
create little, you know?
So theoretically, maybe, but what I'm actually suggesting is you outsource that. I'm saying
Oh,
don't
okay.
go try to learn Canva or learn how to create animated video graphics. Figure out where you can get someone to do that for you at a price you can afford.
Okay.
Hey, let's meet on this subject. I'm going to go to Harry Spate because Harry started share. He has a podcast now. He's had multiple podcasts. Now he's doing rooms on Clubhouse. He's doing Instagram videos. He kills. And Harry, I think you could speak to this journey, like to Jen's journey, even because you just started this journey a year ago. And would you tell us about some of the steps that took you from being afraid to, I don't know, maybe you were hesitant to take that first step to what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me up here. I love this room. I wish I could spend more time in it. I had the honor and privilege of having Dr. Tachi on the Sales Made Easy podcast yesterday, and what a gem. So you guys are making some great connections in here. Yeah, so first of all, Tom, thank you for your brilliance. I can tell you guys that I struggled big time letting people know I used to be a missionary. I thought people would look at me as someone that was going to be selling roses in the airport and all the skits from Saturday Night Live 100 years ago. And I just kept that to myself. And it really wasn't until recently I said, why am I afraid? And, I did lose some friends, right? They just said, what? And so anyway, to get back to the more important question about overcoming the fear of doing this stuff, I just didn't let perfect get in the way of good enough. And I am a huge believer that in any time that I did anything in my life, including, moving to the Dominican Republic, I just committed, and then stuff started to fall in place. So when I did a podcast with Eric for over a year, we did 100 episodes. When I first started doing it's like, dude, who do we know? And then when he and I broke off, I said, I'm going to start my own. I've got to do it for the Harry Spade brand. I said, who is going to want to come on a podcast with me? I mean, seriously. So I don't know if I have 20 episodes, whatever the number is. I've got 12 in the queue. I've got all kinds of CEOs in my network here on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking I should be doing 2 a week. I just love doing this. I'm going to get better at it. I'm meeting superstars like Dr. Tachi. She was on. And, the more I do this, the more I love people. And it's just, we're all bringing brilliance into the world. And I'm watching it, right? So I love it. So, yeah, don't overthink. Get started. Good things will happen. And you'll find your way, right? This whole thing about editing, I've got a guy, but there are people that just put stuff out and they don't even worry about it. And then as time goes on, you keep getting better. And as Dr. Tachi mentioned in the podcast yesterday, is just keep trying to get better. And then yeah, that's all I got. I'll hand over the mic.
No, you won't hand over the mic. Harry, what is so this journey and like he's nailing it. What's different about you than a year and a half ago or 2 years ago now that you're out sharing this story? Like do you feel like you are a different person? Did you feel like you had to do it? Why now? Why are you doing it? And how has your life changed?
Well, it's interesting. In my view, I had concerns about what would others think. And I'm going back to high school, right? I mean, people in high school, I'm worried about. That's what I was thinking. So what? And these people are not even in my life. And then one of my former bosses, I was thinking, what would that person think? And then, as I started meeting these other people podcasting, I just went, oh my God, I've got to come out, so to speak, and just live my life, and I'll make new friends. And I look at you and the people you've introduced me to, and in this room, that I would much rather hang out with and share stories of inspiration and be our true selves, our genuine who we are, and not worry about what someone's going to think of us, because frankly, I don't care anymore. And those people, yeah, maybe they don't talk to me, maybe they'll be polite, but it doesn't matter. I do not wake up thinking about what so and so from 40 years ago is thinking about me this morning. So, does that help?
Harry, I got nothing to add. That was spectacular, man. I'm hoping that I love I live in this space of inspiration and positivity and seeing somebody that and why Jen I brought up Harry is here's somebody that just did it. Had all these fears that we all have. I have fears all the time that my face looks fat. I stumble over people's names. I mess up what I'm saying. I'm mad about my gray hair. Whatever it is, or same thing. Somebody that made fun of me in high school or college or things like that. But you put yourself out there like Harry's doing, and it really changes everything. So I salute you on that journey, Tom. I think we got to meet Carolyn here. We need to meet Carolyn. Let me change my phrasing of that. Hi, I'm Carolyn. I know Carolyn. Look, I'm pushing follow. Paula, I am Carolyn. Carolyn, what do you got going on for us? Ask a question, drop a tip. The floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Carolyn M. I'm calling from Israel. Hi from Israel, everybody. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Just if you want to ask a question, go on, my friend.
I haven't really got any question. I just popped in. I just want to introduce myself. As I said, my name is Carolyn M. My podcast is Baby Hour. It's a unique podcast for moms and babies, and we interview all anything baby related, financing for your baby, baby sign language, introducing your pet to your baby, anything that's got any kind of connection to a baby, which is almost everything. We interview them. Um, that's all I've got to say. Really, I'm not into all the self help podcasts that everybody's and the learning, teaching people everything. We're just an easy listening for moms and babies. We're especially looking for moms and babies. We broadcast when the moms are feeding early in the morning, and we're a growing community. We're quite unique, and just keep an eye out for us, Baby Hour. BABYHOUR, no space, and I'm available on all the podcast platforms. We're listened to in about 24 countries because babies are babies. They're the same everywhere. That's about it.
Carolyn, we appreciate you. Hey, we love those little babies. I have a 13-year-old and 16-year-old, and we've been through all those processes. So we appreciate the work you're doing. Keep up the good work. Hey, Leslie, you popped back up. So did you want to add something?
No, I am actually, my Wi-Fi is on and off because I have to shop for my 3 dogs for food. So I am just here listening, but thanks for checking in.
Okay. Well, Tom, on that note, we've covered it all, man. We this has been quite a journey as
That's it.
usual.
That's it.
So
There's no more topics. There's nothing else to talk about. All future rooms are canceled. No, just kidding.
yeah, dinosaurs, media, babies.
Yeah.
We did it. Cells. So take us home, brother. We appreciate you. I'm thankful for everybody that stops through, and thankful for you, man. driving us, keeping us on task. So do your thing, man.
Well, thanks, Dominic. I appreciate that. I appreciate this space. I appreciate being a part of it. I'm grateful to everyone who comes by every week, supports this room, shares their stories, shares their knowledge, asks for help. I think that's really the thing that is overlooked so often, right? Is that the key to success, I believe, the key to success, and it took me a long time to figure this out, way too long to figure this out. But I think the key to success is asking for help. And I think asking for help is a sign of strength. It is a courageous act to ask for help. And I am proud and humbled to be a part of this space and this room and this community where we have created opportunity and encouraged people to do that, to be courageous, to take action, and to ask for help. And so thank you to Dom for helping create this space. I appreciate you. Thank you to all the moderators here. And all the experts that come through the room, our favorites, obviously, Harry and Dr. Tachi and Leslie and all the producer Jemmy and the Pied Piper Julie and all the folks that come through regularly, Michael Lozier, that help us out and help lend their expertise to all the folks that come through and ask questions. I appreciate it. Keep coming in, keep asking for help. Be courageous, move forward, pursue your passions, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for being here, everybody.